Hello and welcome to another video on Axway Managed File Transfer. In this video I'm going to do another advanced routing use case where I'm going to route files to different destinations based on the file name. Let's have a look at the requirements here to set it up. So I'm going to set up this kind of flow here where I'm going to upload files through an SFTP client upload. This could be any particular upload mechanism you choose. Once the files hit the SecureTransport Advanced Routing engine, I'm going to do a few different things depending on the file name. So I'm going to have two routing rules set up, and I'm going to have an error rule set up. So when the file is received, if it matches AWS underscore something, I'm going to PGP encrypt it and send it to a S3 transfer site. If it's Azure underscore something, I'm going to change the line endings using a transformation step, and I'm going to send it to the Azure blob. The third rule is a catch-all. If I don't execute either of the first two, then I'm going to move this file to an error account and raise an alert to the administrator. Alright, so let's get into setting this up. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is set up my account that can route files to the S3 destination. So I'm going to reuse this from S3 account here, and I'm going to reuse this transfer site. So previously I was doing downloads with this site. Now I'm going to also use it for upload. So I'm going to change the upload settings, which we didn't have before. And I'm going to call this, the folder that I'm going to upload to is going to be called inbound. And I'm also going to overwrite this at the routing rule level. So I'm going to make sure I have a check there. And that should be all I need. If you do need to attach any kind of metadata that you want to attach to the file when you send it to S3, you can do so here. One other thing I'm going to want to check here is this access level. Because I'm going to use this for routing from other accounts, I'm going to set this to public and hit save. So that should be ready to transfer our files to S3. So for the S3 account, I'm going to be sending this off to the S3 bucket, but I'm also going to want to PGP encrypt it. So I'm going to show you how we generate and import some keys for PGP encryption and signing. So this is the account that I'll be using here. Under the certificates tab now, we've got three tabs here for certificates login, if we're going to use a certificate to log on, which we're not doing in this case. Private certificates are where we would store our private keys. So in this case, I'll use a private key for signing the payload. Partner certificates are for storing a partner's public key. So when we need to encrypt the file, we'll store the partner's public key here. So in this case, I'm going to need a private certificate firstly to sign my file, and I can go ahead and generate that. And up the top here, I'll click PGP, give it an alias, so PG private, make it valid forever, and probably don't need my middle name there. And hit generate. So now I've got a private key stored there. What you can do, and what you would generally do when you're generating a private key, is you'll then go into the account, the key, and export the public key. And the public key gets sent to your third party, and they can use that to encrypt files for you or verify your signature. You wouldn't click this would allow you to save a backup of the private key. In this instance, I don't want to do that. I just want to send my public key to the partner, and I'll export it like that. And then I can take this ASC file, attach it to an email because there's nothing sensitive about it, send it to the third party, and they can import it at their end. Usually as part of a PGP key exchange, the partner will send you back a certificate to install, and this is where you do it here under the partner certificate. So I'll click import this time, go to PGP, and I'll call it partner key. I'll browse for this file, and then I'll click the partner's key and click import. So now I've done a key exchange with my partner, assuming they've done their bit at their end. They should have our public key installed and a copy of the private key to do the decryption when you send them files. So one other thing I need to check here is if I'm going to do encryption and I'm going to do it at the route level, I need to change the access level for this key. So I'm going to again change this to public, meaning that I can use it in my route steps. And the private key also, I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'll hit close. Okay, so that should give me the keys that I need to do the encryption. So I should have everything I need for that first routing rule set up now. And we'll just check the equivalent account that we've got for the Azure side of this transfer. We're going to use the Azure Hub account and Azure Blob transfer site. So within here, my access level is set to public, so that's all good. Also, my upload location is set, and I'm allowing this to be overwritten by the routing application. So that should be good to go without any changes. So I'll just go ahead and save that and move on to the next step. So I'm going to need an error account. So if these first two rules aren't matched, I'm going to move files to this error account and notify an admin. So this isn't going to be anything particularly special. I'm just going to set up a account called error. I don't see any need to be logging on to this account, so I'm not going to create a login here. One thing I will need though is I'm going to need to set this to public for the access level. I could probably get away with business unit here, but I'll make life easy. I'll set it to public, meaning I can use this account and route files to it from other accounts as part of advanced routing flows. So we've now got our error account ready for any error files to be routed to. So that should have us all our prerequisites configured. Now I can go ahead and create the 3 routing rules that I need. So I'm going to do this one as a route template because I may then choose to assign it to other users as they come along. They may need the same flow. Create new, and I'll call it conditional route. Assign the business unit. Now this time I am going to get into the execution rules. So there's 2 ways that this can work here. I can execute every single rule that triggers, or I can hit the first rule. So in this case, I'm going to only want to run the first rule that triggers. So if it's got an AWS extension, I'm going to trigger the first rule and then stop processing. So I'm going to create route rule 1. Rule 1. And now I am getting to expression language as well. So the expression language here is going to determine whether this route is triggered or not. Regular expression here. So regular expression for AWS underscore, any file name, will trigger this rule 1. So rule 1, I'm going to want to do PGP encryption. So I'll select that from the drop down and hit add. So now I've got encrypt and sign. I've got a few options to configure here. I'm just going to go with encrypt and sign, and I'm going to go from S3 and my partner key. So this is going to encrypt the partner's public key, and I'm now going to sign with my PGP private key. So the rest I can leave as defaults and hit save. So that should be my PGP step configured there. The next step I'm going to need is a send to partner. So in this case I'm going to again use the from S3 site and the demo bucket, and I'm going to overwrite the upload location. So I'm going to call it inbound, and then I'm going to do something like, again, account name. So this will see at the target, they'll have inbound as the folder with the account name as the subfolder. And everything else I can leave as default. That should be my first rule ready. I'll hit save. Now go ahead and create the second routing rule. The second rule is going to look pretty similar. Click new route here again. Rule 2. Again, I'm going to be using expression language to trigger this. So in this case, it's going to be almost the same expression, but slightly different. So if match Azure underscore, then trigger this rule. And this time we're going to change the line endings. So we're not going to PGP the file, but we are going to change the line endings. So this route step is pretty similar to how you used to do a DOS to Unix command. If you get like a Windows line feed character that you need to replace. So in this case, I'm going to guess that it's a Linux as the source, and I'm going to change it to Windows on the way out. Hit save. And now, after that happens, I want to then send it to a partner. So again, this is going to be using another account's transfer site. That's your hub. There's your blob site, and I'm going to use that same expression to overwrite the target folder. So bounds and then account name. And again, leaving everything else as default. So that should give us our second rule finished. I'll save that and we'll complete the third now. So the way this execution rule setting has triggered now, if I'm matching a AWS file, I'm going to trigger this rule and stop. If I'm matching Azure underscore, I'm going to trigger rule 2 and stop. If we get into the third rule, it means that neither of these have been triggered, so we can assume that this is now an error. So I'm going to add a third rule. I'll call it error. And I'm just going to do this regardless, so it's always going to be executed, but it'll only get to this rule if the first two haven't been hit. So we can assume something's gone wrong, or we've got some unexpected file. Now I'm going to do, rather than a send to partner, I'm going to publish it to an existing account, which just moves it within SecureTransport to a target account. And this account is going to be called error, and I'm just going to put it into the root folder, and I'll publish it as, let's do something like transfer.target, and then I'll give it an underscore. So the transfer.target is the original file name, and I'll give it an underscore, and I'll go account.name. And just for testing, I'm going to set my collision settings there, so I'll replace any file of the same name. You could use a variable to add like a GUID or add a random string on the end there. There's a couple of expressions available for that, but I will just overwrite for now. I don't have any subscriptions configured on the target, so I can leave that unchecked. I'll hit save. Okay, so I also want to raise an alert if this has been triggered. So let me go and set that up. So it should be a simple case of doing this. Trigger if this rule has been executed. So there's a couple of things I can do here. I can, if I want to use expressions, I could use user email in there, or I could use the account properties email. I'm just going to hard code this for an administrator address, which just happens to be me at this point. And then I can choose the template. So the templates are pretty easy to customize. I'll just use the routing triggered notifications, the default there, but you can customize these and add a few fields to them if you need to. And then I'll hit save. So that's my third rule. So I've got my 3 rules, my 2 routing rules, and then my error condition. I'm going to go ahead and save that. That's my rule set. And so I've now got a route template ready to assign to users and test. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and create a new account for testing this brand new route that we've got. I'll go to accounts, click new account, and I'll call it conditional. Don't need much configured here. I'll just give it permissions, and I will set a password in this case. And I think that should be all I need for now. Save. Okay, so now that I've got my account configured and my route configured, everything should be pretty easy to assign to this new user. So I'll go to the routes tab, I'll select my conditional route, assign it. I've got all the rules there inherited from the template, so I don't need to add anything there. I'll just go ahead and save. Now, obviously give it a name. And once again, we tie everything together through a subscription. So I'll assign it an advanced routing subscription. I'll stick with the theme. And then I need to tell it which route to execute, so my conditional route. And as far as the post-transmission settings go, I will delete the file on success after it's been sent. So the user uploads something to here, it's going to run through the conditional set of rules, route rules, and depending on the outcome there, route the file. So let's hit add and go ahead and test it. Okay, so jumping over to my Linux console here, I've got a few test files ready to go. Now I'll SFTP to the server. This is okay, so there's my account logged on, and I've got my conditional subscription folder, so I'll go ahead and change to that. And first up, I will put my AWS test 1. Now we're going to go and have a look at the file tracking logs to see what happened. Operations, file tracking. So it's looking pretty good. So it's uploaded the test 1, and we can see by the PGP extension it's encrypted it and sent it off. So a little bit more information within the logs there. We should see the route status, and we should see it sent off to the S3 destination. So that rule has worked. Let's flick back to the console and try the same thing with the Azure. And give that a second. And again, that's looking pretty good. So it has been sent to my Azure blob via the upload from SFTP. So I can check the logs. I've got my SSH upload, and we can see the routes executed. Everything looks all good. Obviously we can go back and check the logs there, and if you drill through there, the routing is quite verbose, the logging, so if you wanted to drill through there, you can see everything that's going on in terms of the route steps that are executed. So we can see the line ending step has been executed. It won't make any difference to the file, maybe a little bit of content difference, but we won't be able to see anything in the file tracking logs. Okay, let's try the third error condition. So we'll see how this rolls if we upload a non-file or non-file that's going to catch either of our rules. And let's have a look here. File tracking. Alright, so it looks pretty good. So let's explain what's going on here. So the file 1, it's caught, it's routed it outbound. So we've got an SSH upload and then a routing event where it sent the file outbound, and a routing inbound event where it's arrived at the error account, and we can see there with the file name it's been renamed as the original file name with the account name as a suffix. And just to confirm, I've got an email. I'll flash back to my email client, and there we go. So there's a routing rule that's been triggered. Okay, I hope that made sense. As always, feel free to reach out if you've got any questions or comments. Thank you.